What's up? And welcome in to Under the Hood with me, Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking us out on YouTube. We are growing by the day because of you, because you're sharing the broadcast, you're sharing the podcast, you're sharing the YouTube. Thank you so much for helping Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood grow. And of course, we are presented by our friends over at Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. Think about this. You want to get out of that loft. You want to get out of that stuffy apartment, that overpriced apartment. I want you to consider nhschicago.org for Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. They've helped my family. They can help yours as well. Just learn about the home buying process by going to nhschicago.org. Just tell them J-Hood sent you. You go to that website. You can learn that they've got a number of events to help people be able to plant roots and get their own home. That's why you go to nhschicago.org, Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to have my crazy cousin WIley in here in just a moment. We'll get his thoughts about the Bears and their loss against the Detroit Lions by a score of 52-21. A number of things I want to talk about, though, and that is someone that has been in the crosshairs a lot for Bears fans, and that is Ryan Poles, the general manager of the Chicago Bears. We'll get to the game in just a second. I just want to talk about Ryan Poles for a second. I said at the time of the hiring of Ben Johnson, the head coach for the Chicago Bears, I said that if the Bears are not getting off to a great start, I don't mean necessarily this year, but in the tenure of Ben Johnson early, if it does not go well for Ben Johnson and the Bears, then Ryan Poles is going to be the guy that is going to be let go. Just because Ryan Poles, as well as Ben Johnson, are on the same plane as far as contracts are concerned, doesn't mean that Ryan Poles is going to be able to stay. All I can tell you is this. The resume is what it is. Ryan Poles has now drafted 34 players as a Bears general manager. 26 have played one or more seasons. None has made a Pro Bowl. He's the only general manager in franchise history to have that honor at the moment. 3-17 against the division in his tenure with the Chicago Bears. 15-38 overall. Those are both worst in franchise history. And this is the legacy of Ryan Poles right now. Things must change under Ben Johnson and under this regime for Ryan Poles to keep his job. Because you see, Ben Johnson was hired to fix things. And Caleb Williams was not his draft pick. All those draft picks, those are not his guys outside this past draft. The Lovelands and the Burtons and players of that ilk. But if things don't turn around, Ryan Poles will be the guy that will get the boot from Kevin Warren and the Chicago Bears. There's no way that the GM and head coach will be side by side throughout all of this if it does not turn around. So I know that people want to get their rocks off about Ryan Poles, and that's all good. I totally understand that because he generally manages the team. And to look at what happened last game against the Detroit Lions, the idea that we don't see Ozzie Trapillo out there, the reason why that we don't see Amagaje, we don't get Luther Burden and Colston Loveland into the mix is because these are guys that are supposed to be helping you in what I think is a season of transition for the Chicago Bears, meaning that you got to find out who's going to be here for the long haul for the Bears. And those guys don't play. I'm looking at Luther Burden, and I am looking at the wide receiver and the tight end and Colston Loveland as almost like redshirt years. Those guys have to be able to get on the field at some point. And I know that in the press conference on Monday, Ben Johnson was pretty much saying, well, they're starting to get the hang of the offense, to get all that. Hey, I understand that everyone has to eat under Ben Johnson because Roma Dunze's got to get his, and he had a tremendous game, I thought, against the Lions. 7 receptions, good for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Moore's got to eat because, he sulks and he complains if he does not get the ball, and I get it. He's a wide receiver. He wants to be able to pay dividends for the Bears. I totally understand why he would get pissed off that he's not in the offense more. He needs to be able to be more part of the offense for sure. But then when you have a Dunze and Moore, then Colt Komet's going to want his, and Zacchaeus is going to want his, and Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, they're going to want theirs. So what I would say is that it is important for the Chicago Bears to get on the same page and figure out, hey, there's one football, but how can we win football games with all this talent that Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson wanted? What are they going to do about it? So I think that is a huge question for this Chicago Bears team. But I want to talk more about not just Ben Johnson, not just Ryan Poles. I want to talk about the Bears overall with this loss, 52 to 21, in which the Bears got absolutely clowned. Absolutely clowned. They were embarrassed and embarrassing at Ford Field. The Bears are now 0-2, and it was a complete collapse on every level of the team. All three phases and coaching failed in embarrassing fashion. But we have a picture of Jared Goff. If you're listening on the podcast, Jared Goff, getting his Lambeau leap or whatever they call it in Detroit, leaping into the crowd with the fans, and he could have done that a lot because I don't know, Detroit had 7 touchdowns, 7. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about Jared Goff, in which the Lions scored on 6 straight possessions from the second quarter through the fourth quarter. I want you to think about 73 points surrendered in 5 quarters by this Bears defense. So the Detroit Lions want to make sure that Ben Johnson was embarrassed, because everything we hear out of Detroit is that Ben Johnson got a lot of credit for the Lions and how good they were or how good they are because of his offensive game plan. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with Ben Johnson getting credit because he helped Jared Goff turn his career around in Detroit. There's no doubt. The offense was tremendous, but I think that the head coach of the Lions, Dan Campbell, may have thought, there's a lot of credit here, or Jared Goff that, there's a lot of credit here. Well, whatever it is, the Detroit Lions want to make sure that Ben Johnson was embarrassed. It's one thing to lose. You're going to lose football games, as you well know. But here's the thing. When you can't stop the run, when you can't stop getting gashed on the short pass and the intermediate pass and long pass, and when you surrender 177 yards on 30 carries, I mean, the defense looks broken, and it looks really, really bad at this point in time for Dennis Allen and the Chicago Bears. But let me just get back to the point, because there's a lot. I mean, it is 7 touchdowns surrendered, 8.8 yards per play, 511 yards. It was the shits. It was awful by the Bears defense. But here's the thing that I think is strange about the narrative about the Chicago Bears, is that we have people calling in the Kap J-Hood Morning Show. We're on weekday morning 6 to 9. You can download the ESPN Chicago app or on ESPN 1000 locally. And people were like blaming Caleb Williams for the loss yesterday. I mean, when you lose, everybody gets blamed. But I found that fascinating that people looked at Caleb Williams and said, well, the whole thing is with the Caleb Williams, the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. That's the problem. And I'm here to tell you that there's a number of things that was wrong with that football game, but Caleb Williams is not on the top of my list. He's not on the top of the list. Not this time. He's got work to do to be able to refine himself as a quarterback in the National Football League with the Chicago Bears team. But if you don't like Caleb Williams, that's one thing. But if you actually watch the game, the defense was horrible, and they were inconsistent. And with the offense, you never confuse activity with accomplishment. New offensive line, but the same issues, not working together. You had penalties with Jones and Dahlman and Wright. Caleb Williams was sacked 4 times. So it's still not a finished product yet as far as this offense is concerned. That's one. But 2, every time the Bears lose, it's not about the quarterback. I know that we have dumbed down, for whatever reason, the conversation about football these days, that we don't look at special teams and how bad that was to start the game from Cairo Santos. I mean, we don't look at special teams. Don't look at those errors because that isn't a finished product yet either. In 2 games, you have 2 major mistakes, punter, kicker, and then the kicker in the Detroit game. No one looks at the defense, not the 52 points and the 8.8 yards per play and 7 touchdowns surrendered. No, never mind the defense. Everyone looks at the offense. Everyone wants to blame Caleb Williams for everything. When you lose, everybody gets blamed. Everybody. Caleb Williams has to continue to work to be a better quarterback and a better leader. No doubt about that. But I want to be able to express to you, the Bears fan, that I'm disappointed, not mad. I'm disappointed that the Bears are 0-2 going into the Dallas game on Sunday. I'm disappointed because I thought that if you're not going to get the Minnesota game, you have to do what you can to run the football against Detroit and slow the clock down. You've got to be able to get after Jared Goff. You got to be able to do things. You don't have to have a perfect game, but you could damn well be better than how you played. The offense couldn't catch up to Detroit's offense because the defense was the drizzling shits. That's why that the offense could get there. I mean, they scored 21 points and still needs work, but this defense is worse. The defense is worse at this point than the offense, especially in this last game against Detroit. Now we'll see what happens Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys, but don't get it twisted. The idea that Caleb Williams is the reason why that the Bears are in this position, or Ryan Poles by himself is the reason why the Bears are in this position, or Ben Johnson's the only. No. Remember, last year, this team had talent, and this team was supposed to be able to be much better than 5 wins. This year, you add more talent, and they have not been able to gel. They're not a cohesive unit. That's a major problem for this football team, that's for sure. We are presented by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. NHSchicago.org is where you go. Get out of that stuffy loft, that apartment. Get yourself your own home, but do it through Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, NHSchicago.org. Wow, Bears got clowned. And the Lions players had their own like celebrations to embarrass not only the Bears, but Ben Johnson. They're doing all those plays that didn't work last year against the Chicago Bears, the things that didn't work. It's crazy, man. It's amazing. I just, ugh, 52-21. All right, let's talk about 3 games that stood out to me over the weekend. 2 college, 1 pro. Usually, sometimes it's going to be 2 pro, 1 college, but I got to start off first with sick 'em. The Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs! I'm a huge Georgia football fan going back to my childhood. I was so blessed, by the way. Let me go back on camera here. I was so blessed to be able to see 2 great running backs as a child. As a Chicago Bears fan, I grew up watching Walter Payton and was just enamored with Walter because he was doing things that no one else was doing on the field. So I grew up watching Walter Payton on Sundays. And on Saturdays, I grew up watching Herschel Walker. And I'm like, who is this guy in red that's running over the competition? It was Herschel Walker. So I fell in love with the Georgia Bulldogs at an early age. And even though this game was not at Sanford Stadium in Athens, what's so great is that this Bulldogs team, in which I think was an instant classic, they defeated the Tennessee Volunteers by the score of 44-41 in overtime. If you guys see the highlights of this, because the Bulldogs were down and out in Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you're thinking, oh, they can't come back in this ball game. Tennessee's finally going to break their, I believe, 8-game losing streak against Georgia. Let me tell you something. As a Georgia fan, I was so happy to see my Bulldogs pull out the victory against Tennessee, 44-41 in overtime. Gunnar Stockton is the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, and 23 for 31, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns. Late in the ball game, Georgia's down 8. And Stockton, he throws a bomb, and I mean a bomb, to get the score to 2 points after a touchdown, and then they get the 2-point conversion, and they just never look back. And a sad Neyland Stadium in Knoxville had to go home because Georgia beat that ass again against Tennessee. So happy. That's one game. I'll mention another game that stood out to me for another reason, and that is what happened with what's supposed to be the NFL game of the week, and that's the Chiefs and the Eagles, which is a rematch of what we saw at the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs are now 0-2 on the season. And so I wasn't confused. I was just kind of like, boy, the Chiefs, they play like they have no weapons. I think it was very strange to watch that football game because I thought, okay, if the Chiefs as an underdog at home, if they want to be able to make some noise and change the narrative that they're too old and washed then they would win at home. And that's not the case. The Eagles hunkered down. I was so impressed by the Eagles. Of course, they're the champions. But the point is, though, I was really impressed with Fly Eagles Fly, the way that they were able to get it done in the trenches. They made Patrick Mahomes look very pedestrian. And I know that seemingly he doesn't have a lot to work with. And I thought that Travis Kelce was very heavy-legged. Maybe there's a reason why he was heavy-legged. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe. But I guess that defensively and offensively, they didn't look like themselves. 0-2 doesn't mean that the season's over, like the Bears or like the Chiefs, but boy, they got some work to do. I thought that was very interesting. And the third game of the three-pack I want to talk to you about is the Fighting Irish. So I watched that game, the Irish taking on Texas A&M, and Texas A&M won the ball game in South Bend by the score of 41-40. And I watched that game, and boy, that was also a classic. Did not expect the Aggies to go into South Bend and win. Back and forth action offensively. It was really fun to watch, but I was surprised. And so now the Irish are 0-2. So does that mean that they won't be ranked this week? They were 0-1. I think they were in the top 15. So will they be ranked this week? I have no idea. But that's two tough losses for Marcus Freeman and his Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And they'll win their share of ball games, but man, that's tough when you're that poor defensively. Freeman's talked about in his press conference I saw on earlier Monday. So we'll see what happens. But those are three games. There's a lot of other games, but I just narrowed down to those three. Strange to see the Chiefs that way with a championship pedigree. The Eagles show that they can have an opportunity to repeat. Who knows? I probably would take the field when it comes to who I would take to win the Super Bowl this year because it could be anybody. But the Eagles are a favorite for sure. Of course, my Georgia Bulldogs winning. Big smile on this dog's face. Very happy to see Georgia with the victory against Tennessee. And then, of course, Notre Dame losing to Texas A&M. I'm not one of these Notre Dame haters. I know that there's a lot of those across the country. You might be one of them. I'm just not one of those guys. Marcus Freeman's got a good program, but they're off to a tough start. Kind of like Dabo Swinney. I was watching that game in the Hood Cave as well. They're in the Hood Cave checking out Clemson losing to Georgia Tech. That's not good. All right, let's get into talking more Bears with my crazy cousin WIley. The Bears lose. Can you find a victory on the schedule? What's the next victory? Take a look at it. And then we will have crazy cousin WIley right around the corner. We're presented by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Can the Bears beat Dallas? Leave your comments. Can they beat the Raiders? We continue on with Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, and he's here. The main event is here. There he is. My crazy cousin WIley. And if you're listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, you really should be watching on YouTube, Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, because Cuzzo has moved over to the Polk High football jersey. Hello, Cuzzo.
Let's rock.
That's what it's come to. On the 0-2 team, and now we need Al Bundy to help the Chicago Bears.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, somebody has to run the ball, right? I mean,
yes.
Al scored 4 touchdowns in a game, so let's get him the ball and let's punch it in.
I'm all for Al Bundy playing for the Chicago Bears since it's very light in that running back room with Swift and Monungai. So I'm all good with Al being the fullback. As long as he brings Peggy Bundy, I'm all good with it.
Well, he can run the ball, and I can run upstairs with Peg. It's just it works out.
Teamwork. Two running backs. Yeah, two running backs. You running with Peggy, and he's running the Brock. Okay,
absolutely.
That's all good with me. That's all good with me. Because this is a tough spot. We're talking about a football team that's lost 12 of the last 13. We have not had a happy conversation in almost a year about the Chicago Bears. We've done a draft show. We've talked about the offseason, but they've lost 12 of the last 13. And so when you only have 3 wins in the division the last 3 years, the buck has to stop someplace, either with Ben Johnson, this football team, Ryan Poles. Someone has to be able to break out of this. Otherwise, it's the same old Bears.
So I didn't listen to much sports radio today because I kind of knew what it was going to be.
Thank you. Thanks for
Everybody's,
that. Appreciate that support.
But I
You
turned it on.
support me. You support me like a storefront church on the South Side. Appreciate that. Yeah.
So I know it was everybody's jumping off the building. Everyone is. It's the let's fire the black guy. The black guy doesn't know what he's doing. Ryan Poles, and I get it. Like my issue with what I saw yesterday and what I saw the first week, and we hired Ben Johnson because he is a great offensive mind. He did a great job building up the Detroit Lions into one of the best offenses in the NFL. And I still support Ben Johnson. I think he's going to be a great head coach. In the first 2 weeks, the Ben Johnson offense has averaged less than 20 points a game. Now, my issue I have with that, Hood, is look at the talent on the roster. Let's ignore running back. I don't think Swift's a bum, but he's not like a really good running back. He's adequate, But you look at the talent across the offense. This isn't a team that should be putting up less than 20 points a game offensively at all. And that's what we're doing right now. And I'll go back to Eberflus when he came here. We had a defense that was terrible, talent-wise terrible. He found a way to make that talent serviceable. So do I think Eberflus is better than Ben Johnson? No. But I think Eberflus found a way to maximize the talent on the side of the ball that he was calling plays for. Thus far, Ben Johnson has failed at doing that. And I'm definitely going to be patient with him. But that, to me, has to change. Because right now you have a defense who is missing missing its three best players due to injury. And that's Jalen Johnson, that's Edwards, and that is Kyler Gordon. Three best players are out because of injury.
We should mention the story from Monday night is that Jalen Johnson could be out for the year from the injury that he suffered. He re-aggravated that hamstring, a different injury than before. Did not play the entire game, but he could be out for the year. We'll double check that story from Courtney Crone from ESPN.com. But yeah, you are missing players for sure. This is supposed to be built for next man up, though. We didn't see that definitely against Detroit.
No, we did. And the issue is, I think Dennis Allen is calling plays for the players that he thought he was going to have on the roster instead of calling plays for the players that are playing in the games. And that's problematic because in the last 5 quarters, the Bears defense has given up 73 points. 73 points. Like we're moving into what's the guy's Tucker, whatever the guy who was the Bears defense coordinator with Trestman, like went to Michigan State. We're moving into that territory where that's bad. I mean, that's beyond bad. 73 points. 73 points, 5 quarters. It's problematic. You have to start calling plays for the talent you have on the roster and not for the talent you thought you were going to have on the roster because it's not working. And then, we have Ben Johnson. Again, this talent, it's there. Less than 20 points a game, 2 games. We have to start putting up points. And it starts with Ben Johnson putting the players in position. And I have a problem with Hood. Like all summer, I'm hearing from reporters, Ben is getting after him. He's holding them accountable. He's so smart. He's so much better than Eberflus. They're going to be ready to play. And we're watching the Bears make the same mistakes repeatedly. Same mistakes on offense. Who's being held accountable? So everything I was hearing about the greatness of Ben Johnson during the summer, I'm not seeing it on game day. I'm not seeing the points. I'm not seeing anyone being held accountable. But then I'm hearing, let's fire the black guy because they don't have enough talent. And I'm like, there's plenty of talent on offense. Defense maybe a little questionable, especially with the top 3 guys out. But on offense, there's plenty of talent to score more than 20 points a game. And that's not getting done.
Well, a couple of things. Mel Tucker is who you're thinking of, the defensive coordinator,
Yes.
went to Michigan
Yes.
State. So that was that. So I could just tell you, just from my time in Lake Forest, that watching the coaches and watching them talk to the players, the way they were talking to the players, clearly I kept hearing that word accountability thrown around at training camp. They were talking a lot about it, because clearly Ryan Poles must have told the coaching staff, like, well, we had an accountability problem last year, so we're going to need you to help fix this. I don't like the term clean it up because I think that everyone uses that. You don't clean up anything, you fix it. You fix it, and you are supposed to be able to take that nail and hammer it. You're supposed to tighten the screws on a football team that's loose. And so I don't believe in cleaning it up. I do believe in how you could say our standard is that we have to be accountable. And that's fine, but never confuse activity with accomplishment. You could say that everyone's accountable, but if you play the same way, then where are you going? So I would just say that just the way that this team is going, Wiley, it just feels like it's a team that's trying to figure out who can play and who can't play for the future. That means young players and veteran players. This feels like the Lions under Dan Campbell when he first took over, where it wasn't fixed yet. But yeah, there's talent. But you got to figure out who can be able to stay on the field, do their job, win their individual battles, and work together as a team. I just don't see it. I see a lot of individual talent. I do not see a team working together. That's not clearly defined yet.
I completely agree. And I think that starts with coaching. It does. And I know Ben Johnson is a first-time head coach. Dennis Allen has been there. He's failed a couple of times, so he should have some experience as a head coach and should have an idea of what to do and what not to do. But we're still having these same issues. And I've answered this question, Hood. I saw this elsewhere, but I'll ask this question.
Sure.
You look at the last 2 trips to Detroit. Which loss was worse? The Thanksgiving loss or yesterday?
I just feel like when you surrender 7 touchdowns and it's consecutive touchdowns from the second quarter to the fourth quarter, I just think that this was worse. I do. I think that this was actually worse because the defense did not come to play at all. I understand Jalen Johnson wasn't 100%, and I understand that, you look at this team and TJ Edwards and Edmonds are very important for the linebacker spots. But what I would tell you is that there's plenty enough talent to be able to at least get to the quarterback to be able to stop the run, and we aren't seeing any of that. And so I would say that this one is worse because, and here's the thing, we haven't even come to Caleb Williams' doorstep yet in this conversation because the defense was so bad, Wiley. It was just like, I know that it's easy to just be like, yep, the reason why the Bears always lose is because of Caleb Williams. And sometimes that is true. But in this case, this defense is absolutely broken. If you're Jalen Johnson away from being a good defense, then I question your defense. Because what about the line? So you still haven't been able to figure out what you want to do on the edges with Montez Sweat and Dio Dingbo. These guys have to be able to get to the quarterback. And if you still haven't figured that out, even with a Dingbo being on the team too, you got no pass rush up the middle. That doesn't work, man. That dog don't hunt.
No, it looks. Again, I go back to Matty Eberflus here and working with a defense, at least in his first couple of years, it didn't have a lot of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Those defenses were respectable, even without the talent. And we're looking at a team that these are handpicked players. Like Dennis Allen picked Garrett and Odangbo. Those were his guys. And we've heard all camp about how great Sweat was. He's in the best shape of his life. He's having the best camp as a Bear. All the reports were positive. And we watched the games. It's like, that's what I saw last year. He's healthy, isn't he? Like, he's healthy and he's not getting near the quarterback. I know he had a sack that was reversed because Tyreek Stevenson did a Tyreek Stevenson thing. But it was the same it's the same stuff. There's no pass rush, none at all, and the blitzes aren't working because clearly they're not exotic enough. Because we had McCarthy, we had Golf just pick them apart, and Golf was just loving it. Like, give me more, give me more. Like, you have to adjust your game plan for the talent you have on the roster, and Dennis Allen was not doing that. He was calling plays as if Kyler Gordon, Tremaine Edwards,
Tremaine
Edmonds,
Edmonds, yeah.
Not Tremaine, TJ Edwards, TJ Edwards and Kyler Gordon were on the roster, and they were all healthy. They were not. So you have to modify your approach until you get your guys back. And then if you're not modifying your approach, Ben Johnson, you have to put a bunch of fucking points on the board. We can't be talking about the great Ben Johnson's offense is still averaging less than 20 points a game. We got more than 20 points a game when we had Amon-Ra's brother playing as a top receiver. Mm-hmm. We were doing that then. So like in my mind, it starts with Ben Johnson. Coach him up better. Actually hold somebody accountable instead of just talking about it, and put guys in position to score points. There's a lot of talent on the team. There's talent you handpicked, and they're getting no time. They're not even suiting up for games because you're saying that the players that are suiting up are better positioned to help the team succeed, but it's not happening. So Ben has to be better. I know the easy target is Ryan Poles because we go through this cycle all the time, Hood. We love the GM. I mean, we hate the GM. We love the coach. And then we find out the coach sucks too. Then we hate the coach until we get the next GM and coach combo. Then we repeat the same cycle again and again. And we saw with Pace. Well, we saw with Emery and Lovey. And we were like, oh, well, Lovey's the problem. Oh, no. Emery and Trestman are great. Oh, well, no. Emery sucks. Trestman is good. Oh, well, no. They both suck. Oh, well, we got Ryan Pace. All right, Ryan Pace. Well, we love Matt Nagy. He's just awesome. Let's fire Pace. Oh, well, Nagy sucks too. All right, well, we got Pace in here. Okay. We got Poles in here. Whatever. But, all right, Ben Johnson, he's great. So it has to be Ryan Pace's fault. No. Less than 20 points a game is the coach's fault. This isn't a team that's bereft of talent. Like, it's your fault if you're scoring less than 20 points a game. Do better. Hold people accountable. Put the players in position to win. There's no excuses. No excuses.
That man right there is Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
That is Ryan Poles. That is the general manager of the Chicago Bears, Cuzzo. Ryan Poles. Pace works for the Falcons organization, and he's long gone. That man right there. Go ahead.
You know they look like they look
who?
alike.
No, they do not look like. No, they do not. They do not look alike. No, it's Ryan Poles is the general manager of the Chicago Bears. That is what's happening right now. We quoted earlier some of those numbers, and they're ugly. When you've only won 3 games in the last 3 years in the division, that's not quite taking the North and giving it back.
Yeah,
say that.
Yeah,
that's not what that is.
So I'm a Poles apologist for now. So I'm gonna still keep apologizing for Poles. It was clear the Bears were rebuilding the team. It was clear that not only this wasn't a normal rebuild, this is a rebuild that doesn't normally happen at all, because a lot of teams you go to, you take over a team, they have some talent on the roster, or they don't have some talent. You have some good draft picks on the roster, or you have a little cap space. Poles came in, there was virtually no talent on the roster at all. We had no draft picks, and we were in cap hell.
Yes.
And it was like, hey, the chairman McCaskey was like, hey, you know what? You can rebuild things. You can turn things around. You can't turn around all of that overnight. So there was going to be some losing that was going to go on. I think we talked about this before. I expected last year to be better because first 2 years you were retooling, and last year you were actually actively trying to win. This year's the same for me. I expect this year to be better because you're actually trying to win. This isn't a roster that you're supposed to go 4-13 with. This is the roster you should be competitive. Even if you don't make the playoffs, you should look like you're heading in the right direction with. And right now, I don't see an offense that's heading in the right direction. So if the offense was heading in the right direction and the defense sucked, okay, all right. Ben Johnson is here. He has the offense humming. We'll figure out the defense. We'll get some better players, whatever. Figure out the defense. The offense is just as bad as the defense. It is. Because at least the defense has an excuse of we're missing our 3 best players. The offense has no excuses of missing any players. So it's, to me, that's the bigger issue is why isn't Ben Johnson's offense scoring points? Why?
Well, I will just tell you, as I said in the open, when you have Odunze and DJ Moore and Zacchaeus and Jade Walker, you've got Luther Burden, you have DeAndre Swift, you got 2 tight ends and Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. Because there's only one football, but you've got so many different weapons that someone could be able to help you more than just one guy. Like right now, Odunze is the guy for the Chicago Bears. He is. DJ Moore is a close second, but I think that for the future, Odunze is going to be the guy. But the problem I would say is, if you're Ben Johnson, is, okay, you do have all these weapons. So you got to be able to utilize them. People were leaning on Kap and I this morning talking about why you could not get Colston Loveland and Luther Burden the ball more. Look, they have to learn the offense. That's one, that's for sure. And moving forward, they should be able to get more touches, but they ain't going to get as many touches as Odunze or DJ Moore. Let's not get that twisted. Let's hold the brakes on that. Like, we're not a 2-win, 3-win football team that's in the shitter. We're a team that has talent that needs to figure out the way to win some football games. I can understand if we were terrible and like, man, you got to give Luther Burden and Colston Loveland need the football because you got to find out what you have. No, they'll get their shots, but not before Odunze and Moore, even Zacchaeus, who's a really good safety valve for Caleb. So, the offense has to be able to start working. But on top of that, the offensive line with Wright and Dahlman and Jones with penalties, that's not good either, because you've got to not have these pre-snap penalties. So all of it's broken and it needs to be fixed. I guess that's my bottom line.
Ben Johnson is holding him accountable, cuzzo. That's what we heard.
That's right. Holding him accountable.
And it's the same fucking penalties that we were seeing or like hearing about at the start of training camp, the same penalties we were hearing about in mini camp. And now the season has started and the offense is still committing the same penalties at home and on the road. So at some point, it's on the coach. It's on the coach. Like, I know Caleb is a target too. It's Caleb's. Well, Caleb, it was a silent count. So, like, how are they fucking up with a silent count? There was no cadence to fuck up. They were still fucking up. So, again, at some point, probably not this year, clearly, but at some point, you have to look at the coach and say, like, what are you not doing? What are you missing? Because I know part of this too. Like, we praise the work that Ben Johnson did with the Lions, but he took over with a veteran quarterback. Like, he took over with, they had some veteran talent on the team. It wasn't just a bunch of young guys who didn't have a lot of experience. He incorporated those young guys into the mix, but he started with a core of veteran players when he got there, whether it's offensive lineman or the quarterback. Now he has a core of young guys. You got to figure it out. Like to me, you're getting paid $15 million a year to figure it out. I can't have my $15 billion a year coach and coordinator giving us less than 20 points a game. Hood. Like, that has to be a discussion. Like, why is the offense with talent? Why is a talented offense scoring less than 20 points a game with a wizard of a coordinator and head coach who is getting paid $15 million a year?
Yeah,
he has to figure that shit out.
Okay, so now we got to get ready for your spotlight, because this is obviously not going in the right direction. 0-2. So I will dip out, and you need to tell Bears fans why they're going to beat the Cowboys and Matt Eberflus and Schottenheimer coming up on Sunday. So the floor is yours, Bears.
All right. So here's why the Bears are going to beat the Cowboys. One, I actually don't think they're going to win, but let's say I did think they were going to win. Ben Johnson's offense is going to produce points. And with Ben Johnson's offense producing points, Dennis Allen is going to call a defense that matches the talent on the roster. So I'm going to say the Bears are going to win the game against a Cowboys team who's struggling to stop really anybody. They're going to win the game 33 to 27. 33 to 27. Bears.
So the defense is scoring how many touchdowns in that?
Well, I mean, they're giving up a lot of touchdowns too, so I don't know. I don't know. Like, this feels like a difficult game, though, because Matt Eberflus knows the talent better than Ben Johnson does because he was there for a long period of time. So I feel like he has an edge in a lot of ways. This could get ugly. I hope it doesn't, because who's going to stop CeeDee Lamb? Who's going?
Great question.
Who's going to stop Pickens? You know, like, other than himself. But like, if he's not stopping himself, who's going to stop Pickens? Who's going to stop George Pickens? So, like, I think this could get ugly, but you know, I'm hopeful. Again, to me, it starts with coaching. Like, and I'll be honest with you, like, if the Bears lose and the offense is humming, I can accept that defeat. Like, because I know the offense is what Ben Johnson was brought here to fix. If the Bears lose and the offense is still scoring less than 20 points and the defense is still giving up, you know, 40 points a quarter or whatever it is they're doing now, yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm going to have more issues because the head coach is here to score points. And right now we're not scoring points.
The Cowboys defeated the Giants 40-37 in overtime. So a thrilling ball game. Dak Prescott, 38 for 52, 361 yards and 2 touchdowns for Dak. And Jack Sanborn's in there. It is his revenge game. It is Matt Eberflus, his revenge game. So, you know, you lose against the Vikings, a game that you were up 11 in the fourth quarter, lose that ball game. You made J.J. McCarthy look like, like an all-star, like an all-pro. Then McCarthy looks like the shits against a very good Atlanta front on Sunday Night Football. So that's that story. The Bears surrender 7 touchdowns, 8.8 yards per yards per carry, per play, I should say, 8.8 yards per play for the Lions, and they lose that ball game. And so now it's the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see what the Bears do, because could you imagine 0-3 and you're losing to your former head coach, the defensive coordinator, Eberflus? Could you imagine? That's in the cards, by the way. That could happen if you don't get your offense and defense right for this game at home. The Boo Birds will be out.
Hood, 0-4 is very realistic. 0-4 going into a bye is realistic.
Bro, I can't go to Vegas and see the Bears lose.
And here's the thing, like, again, I know we'll talk about Ryan Poles and what he's not doing, but I'll go back to, like, if the issue is the Bears are losing because the defense is giving up a bunch of points and the Bears offense is doing well. Yeah. All right, let's focus on Poles at that point. I'm fine with that. But when the Bears are losing, defense is playing poorly, but the offense is too, I can't blame Poles for that, because this isn't a team that doesn't have talent on offense. This isn't a team that has a bunch of injuries on offense. So to me, there is no excuse for the Bears scoring less than 20 points a game. This team should be humming on offense, and they're not. Like, granted, we've scored touchdowns on the opening drive in both games. Like, that hasn't happened in God knows how long. So, like, that's a step in the right direction, but there's more than one drive a game. It's more than one drive a game.
We are presented by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Get out of that stuffy apartment, that loft. Oh, it's too expensive. What I would say is go to nhschicago.org, because you can learn about the home buying process with nhschicago.org. They've helped my family. They can help yours as well. take classes, be able to learn how the lending scenario works as far as you being able to get your own home. Check it out, nhschicago.org for Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. So at this point in time, you can stay or leave, but we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk here to wrap up Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk only in this regard. And again, we are in the sports realm. This is what we do. But also, there is an intersection between politics and sports. So everyone knows that the slain political organizer Charlie Kirk was shot dead on a college campus in Utah. And so we bring this story up because among the 13 NFL home teams that held a game on Sunday, 6 chose not to hold a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk just a day after he was shot on a college campus. And so there were, I think, some baseball teams as well that had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk as well. They had his face on the video board. And so I'll tell you my thoughts, Cuzzo. So first of all, when it comes to Charlie Kirk, political organizer, rabble rouser, whatever you like to say, in this country, you have a right to say whatever you'd like to say. You see this on social media across the board. You see that people have become brazen, being able to showcase their political beliefs or religious beliefs. And they'll do it on a blowhorn, they'll do it on the corner, they'll do it in front of thousands and thousands of people. People have a right to be able to speak their piece on however they feel. However, when it comes to the sports realm, all we heard during the era of Colin Kaepernick being a quarterback in the National Football League is that we don't want to mix politics into sports, which I found interesting because what Colin Kaepernick was doing as a quarterback for San Francisco was not political as much as it is social. And I know people have a really odd understanding of what the difference is between social and political. What I find fascinating here in 2025 is that there are certain teams, and you can Google that yourself, the teams that decide to be able to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, where they allow Charlie Kirk's name and a moment of silence in their ballpark when he clearly was into politics. But yet we don't want politics when it doesn't suit us. But when it is something that you may agree with or align with, then yes, bring it on. Yes, we can have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. I would just say for George Floyd, I don't recall the moment of silence for him and his family. I don't recall the moment of silence for the kids that were slain in a school in Colorado, along with other political figures that were killed around their home. There was no moment of silence for them. For the kids that go to schools and not sure whether or not they'll be able to come home or not because of some lunatic with a gun trying to kill people just because they woke up that morning and they felt that way, there's no moment of silence for them. So, Cuzzo, I guess my overarching point of this is that I find it interesting that there's a section of people that will say, no, I don't want any politics, I don't want any culture into my sports. But when it suits maybe your political beliefs or religious beliefs, then all is welcome. I just think that there is something that is wrong with that, because from my standpoint, either we can be able to talk about sports with politics or not. But the idea that, well, this is fine and this is not, I have a major problem with that.
All right. So, well, before I start, shout out to Wu-Tang, because I've been going down the catalog today.
Yes.
Shout out to Wu-Tang. But let's to your point. Like we're a nation of hypocrites, and like I knew who Charlie Kirk was because like I love politics. I guarantee you, most of the people who were in those stadiums this weekend prior to his death had no idea who he was. So I'm fine with someone giving a moment of silence if it's a prominent political figure, whether they be Republican, Democrat, independent, you name it. I'm fine with that. If they're a prominent political figure, for a kid that most people didn't know, unless you're like just a political fanatic, I didn't think that was necessary. But to your point, like as being a nation of hypocrites, we had a lot of people in power who questioned certain people, getting any play when it comes to just acknowledgments or even protests. And then obviously when someone they agree with, the people in power agree with, they're all for the protests. They're all for the acknowledgments. So yeah, it's just a continuation of us being a nation of hypocrites. I think we can all look at the tragic events that happened with Charlie Kirk in Utah and say, hey, you know what? There's no need for that in this country. There's no need for
No.
that really in any country. We can
Right.
all acknowledge that. But at the same time, we don't have to treat Charlie Kirk as if he was a former president or a former prominent senator or some former leader who had a lot of skin in the game, who had done things for a while. Charlie Kirk was just pissing in the bed about 20 years ago. So like this isn't someone who's been around for a long period of time. So the idea that not only do we have to acknowledge him, but that there's someone keeping score of the teams that didn't acknowledge him. Like
Yes.
that to me was more problematic because like the article I read, it wasn't like, oh, well, yeah, there was 7 teams, or however many teams acknowledged. I think it was more than 7.
Mm-hmm.
Paid tribute to Charlie Kirk. That wasn't the purpose of the article. The article was like, hey, there was these 6 teams that decided to not honor the life of this man. You should probably send a message to those teams and tell them to do better.
Oh no, boys. There he is. Well, he's not ready yet. It's not his time yet to jump on the show. But yeah, I just think that there's always the opportunity to be able to have that kind of discourse. And again with Colin Kaepernick, and I'll just use him as an example because that was the first time that we had people, political pundits saying stick to sports. Well, when it did not necessarily fit exactly the, what people thought, I just think that I had a major problem with that. But you're right. When it comes to his family, I feel bad for his family and his kids because dad's not there anymore. He was there and he was saying some things that I did not agree with, especially when it comes to people of color, black people, or any race or anybody should not necessarily have to go through that. The idea that someone spews the kind of things that he was saying. I had a problem with a lot of things that he said when you go back and look at some of his videos, but he had a right to say it. That's my whole thing. He had a right to definitely say it. I just didn't necessarily agree with what he said, but I just find it fascinating that, where you have political leaders, that's as you mentioned, not even a governor, not even a president, not even a state senator, that say what they say. They could die, but not be honored at ballparks. But Charlie Kirk, this is completely different than what I'm used to when it comes to honoring someone that, again, had a platform, stood on his platform. I disagree with his platform, but I thought we were supposed to stick to sports, but I guess in some sections of this country, that's not the case.
No, and again, it's the people who have that power, who've had that power for a while. They can, they'll change their mind about those issues with those people just based on a whim, really based on their politics. But yeah, I believe Charlie Kirk was and has made that sound, derogatory, but he was a great entertainer. Like he was a great entertainer. He was great at the grassroots stuff that he did for the people, his audience, particular audience. He was trying to mobilize a particular portion of America, and he did a really good job at that, entertain them. So like I don't knock his work because we all got to make a living some way, and he made a living in a way that he felt was best for him. And part of it he talked about too. He understood the risk that was associated with what he was doing. So again, we can all acknowledge what happened shouldn't have happened, but at the same token, like we're lowering flags across the country. We're demanding sports teams give a moment of silence for this kid, And I think that is a step too far, especially when it's done by the same people who generally have issues with those things when it doesn't fit their politics. So if we're going to do these things, for everyone, fine, let's do it for everyone. But if we're going to be selective about, what political affiliations these people must have, then yeah, I have an issue with that. So I think we need to, be less hypocritical when it comes to those things. I saw Jerry Jones shedding tears yesterday, and yeah, he was moved. He was moved.
Okay. And again, I can't align I'm talking about for me, Jonathan Hood, I can't align myself with that kind of hate. I don't hate anybody just because of their political beliefs or because of the color of their skin. I wasn't raised that way. You wasn't raised that way. So the idea that that gets celebrated, that's fine for other people. But I just think that the intersection of Charlie Kirk and sports, it was pushed to the side and demonized by many when it came to other people. But for Kirk, it seems like it's okay because it fits people's feelings and narrative for whatever reason. All right,
No,
where is the? Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right, because like we were raised in a family that is extremely strong when it comes to faith, and extremely strong when it comes to helping your neighbor. Like those are things that our family believes in at our core. So yeah, like the race doesn't matter, but at the same time, we're not blind. We understand what fairness and equality looks like. So when those things are preached but not practiced, we're going to look at those things like, that's interesting. Like that's different than what you said and did before. So yeah, like I think just do better and
Do better. Yeah.
do better.
All right. What about the mascot?
Rocky.
Where's the mascot? Bring him up.
Let's go.
This is what we've been waiting for.
There we go. You knew what time it was.
There it is. The mascot for the J-Hood and Cousin WIley show. The dog is now part of the show. Now, you're not going to do the trick, are you? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. No, let's not do that. No.
Yeah. There we go. 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 There we go.